Hello, and welcome to another video. Today I am so excited to share another commander deck with you. I put a poll up on my channel to see which deck you wanted me to cover next, and the winner of that poll was Kalamax. So that is the deck that we will be going over today. This is a Temur Commander deck that really wants to copy spells. We will go into that a bit more as we are going through the deck. But for now, let's just take a look at our commander. So we've got Kalamax, the Stormsire. He is 1 green, blue, red for a 4/4 legendary elemental dinosaur. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Kalamax the Stormsire is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Kalamax. So we've got a couple different things going on here. This first ability applies only to the first instant that you cast each turn, but for this deck about a quarter of the cards are instants, so this comes up pretty frequently. And Kalamax needs to be tapped in order to copy it. But the second ability applies anytime that you copy an instant for any reason. So, of course, we've got a lot of copy effects that will feed into this ability. So that covers our commander. Let's start going through the rest of the deck. First up, we will be going through the other creatures in the deck, though there really aren't very many. Starting out with a powerful one here, Seedborn Muse is 3 green for a 2/4 spirit. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. So, of course, very useful for freeing up all of your land on each other player's turn. We do want to be mindful that this is also untapping Kalamax. So if you are looking to use that first ability, then we need to make sure to tap him again. And there are a good amount of ways to do that in here. Gutter Snipe. 2 red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. Eternal Witness. 1 green for a 2/1 Human Shaman. When Eternal Witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Torrential Gearhulk. 4 blue, blue. For a 5/6 artifact creature, construct with flash. When Torrential Gearhulk enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Archaeomancer. 2 blue, blue. For a 1/2 human wizard. When Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Our final creature is Atali, Primal Conqueror. 5 red, red. For a 7/7 legendary elder dinosaur with trample. When Atali Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. For 9 and a Phyrexian green, transform Atali as a sorcery, and it becomes Atali Primal Sickness, a red and green 11/11 legendary Phyrexian elder dinosaur with trample and indestructible. Whenever Atali Primal Sickness deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. So this is in here mostly for the front side, and that enters the battlefield ability, but it is nice to have the option to flip it if you want to. And that is all for the creatures in this deck. Next up, let's look at the enchantments. Our first enchantment is Burgeoning. It is a single green for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Wilderness Reclamation is 3 and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. So another good way to free up your lands for casting even more spells. This is Jace's Sanctum. It is 3 and a blue for an enchantment. Instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you scry 1. So this is a very important mana reduction effect. Plus the scry lets you set up the top of your library a little bit. So this is a really good card to have. Rhystic Study is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Similarly, we have Mystic Remora, blue for an enchantment with a cumulative upkeep of 1. Whenever target opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. That player may pay 4 to counter this effect. Double Vision is 3 red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Similar to Kalamax's first ability, but this one can copy sorceries as well. Swarm Intelligence is 6 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So this one is quite a bit more expensive, but it'll copy every single instant and sorcery rather than just the first one. So really important. And that is also our last enchantment. Up next, we've got a Planeswalker. All right. So the only Planeswalker that we have in this deck is Tamiyo the Moon Sage. She is 3 blue for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker, Tamiyo. Her +1 is tap target permanent. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. -2, draw a card for each tapped creature target player controls. And -8, you get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. And whenever a card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you may return it to your hand. So for Tamiyo, the most important thing is that we get to this emblem. This is a great way to speed up the deck because now not only are we copying spells, but we're also casting them multiple times, and Kalamax is just accumulating those counters all the while. So really fun card here. Next up, let's finally take a look at all of the instants and sorceries. So I've got our instant and sorcery spells both combined here like I normally do. Even though Kalamax only cares about instants, I thought it would be easiest to look at these both together still. Starting out with some ramp, we've got Growth Spiral. It is green-blue for an instant. Draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Nature's Lore is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Farseek is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Three Visits is 1 and a green for a sorcery. And once again, search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Sylvan Scrying is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a land card. Reveal it. Put it into your hand, then shuffle. And conveniently, this one can get any type of land. Kodama's Reach is 2 and a green for a sorcery, Arcane. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal them. Put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle. Roiling Regrowth is 2 and a green for an instant. Sacrifice a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Moving out of ramp and into some card draw, we've got Fact or Fiction. It is 3 and a blue for an instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put one pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. If you've got Tamiyo's Emblem, if they are going to your graveyard from anywhere, then they would just go to your hand anyway. Whispers of the Muse is blue for an instant with buyback 5. Draw a card. So if you do not have Tamiyo's Emblem, then the buyback is nice because it can put itself back into your hand. Treasure Cruise is 7 and a blue for a sorcery with Delve. Draw 3 cards. Make Your Own Luck is 3 green-blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them. If you do, it becomes plotted. Put the rest into your hand. So by plotting a spell, you can cast it later without paying its mana cost. You have to cast it as a sorcery, but it's still a free spell, which is really nice. Dig Through Time is 6 blue for an instant with Delve. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This is Blue Sun Zenith. It is X blue for an instant. Target player draws X cards. Shuffle Blue Sun Zenith into its owner's library. Impulse is 1 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. And then this says to shuffle your library, but they actually removed that part from the Oracle text, so no shuffle. Cathartic Pyre is 1 and a red for an instant. Choose 1. Cathartic Pyre deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. Memory Deluge. 2 blue for an instant. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this spell. Put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Flashback 5 blue. Thrill of Possibility. 1 red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. Moving on to some removal here. Crozen Grip is 2 and a green for an instant with Split Second. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Beast Within is 2 and a green for an instant. Destroy target permanent. Its controller puts a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. Slice in Twain. 2 green for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Draw a card. Pongify. Blue for an instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller puts a 3/3 green ape creature token into play. Cyclonic Rift. 1 and a blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. And overload for 6 and a blue. Blink of an eye is 1 and a blue for an instant, with kicker for 1 and a blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If this spell was kicked, draw a card. Rapid hybridization. Blue for an instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller puts a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token onto the battlefield. Blasphemous Act. 8 red for a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Snap. 1 blue for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Untap up to 2 lands. So this one is actually pretty interesting. We can essentially go infinite with this card because of that land untapping ability. If we have a cost reduction effect like the Jace's Sanctum that we saw before, a copy effect like Swarm Intelligence, and a way to get this back from the graveyard like Eternal Witness, which we could target with that bounce ability, then Kalamax can basically get infinite counters on it, and we could use copies of Snap to get rid of any creatures on the battlefield and then swing in. It does require a lot of things to be in place for that loop to happen, but it is at least something this deck can do if it is uninterrupted, and can certainly be a threat to the table. Capsize is similar, though not quite as repeatable. It is 1 blue for an instant, with buyback 3. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. But this can certainly get very annoying when it is copied and bought back. Or once again, if we have Tamio's emblem to get it back for us, we can keep bouncing multiple things and make it really difficult for opponents to get a foothold. Chaos Warp is 2 and a red for an instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. So that's a really fun one because you're never really sure what you're going to get. Moving right into some copy spells. Increasing Vengeance is red for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. If Increasing Vengeance was cast from a graveyard, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copies. Flashback, 3 red. Reiterate, 1 red for an instant with buyback 3. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Fork is red for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, except the copy is red, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Soul's Fire, 2 red for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So this card is one of our win cons. Whenever Kalamax gets big enough, we can cast this and then copy it for as many players as needed. Then we can just burn everyone else out of the game. Chandra's Ignition is pretty much the same thing. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Again, hopefully Kalamax is big enough that we can just end the game right there. Expansion Explosion. Expansion is hybrid blue-red for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy. And Explosion is X blue red for an instant. Explosion deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. Moving on to some counter spells. We've got Narset's Reversal. It is blue for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. Mana Drain. Blue for an instant. Counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of colorless mana equal to that spell's converted mana cost. And then some miscellaneous spells here at the end. We've got Jeska's Will. 2 red for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Regrowth is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Mythos of Aluna. 2 blue. For a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target permanent. If red-green was spent to cast this spell, instead create a token that's a copy of that permanent. Except the token has, when this permanent enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So this can copy anything on the battlefield. If you're targeting your own thing, then you're probably looking to do something like your Jace's Sanctum or your Swarm Intelligence. Maybe your Gear Hulk, or maybe a Tali if you want to repeat that enters the battlefield ability and then get rid of one of them. Or one of your opponent's things, whatever looks best. But yeah, that is our final spell here. Next up, we've got artifacts. The first one here is technically a creature, but I'm just counting it as an artifact. You're not really casting this and then leaving it as a creature much. You definitely want to be equipping it, so we've got the reality chip. It is 1 blue for a 0/4 legendary artifact creature, equipment jellyfish. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as the reality chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Reconfigure for 2 and a blue. Swiftfoot Boots is 2 mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip 1. Paradise Mantle is 0 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Equip 1. So, an excellent equipment for Kalamax to wear and be able to tap himself whenever you want. Springleaf Drum is 1 for an artifact. Tap an untapped creature you control. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Again, another way to tap Kalamax down. Smuggler's Copter is 2 for a 3/3 artifact vehicle with flying. Whenever Smuggler's Copter attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Crew 1. So, same thing, and some pretty good value you can get from this. Cultivator's Caravan. 3 for a 5/5 artifact vehicle. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. And accrue 3. Relic of Legends. 3 for an artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap an untapped legendary creature you control. Add 1 mana of any color. And then just some mana rocks here. Chromatic Lantern. 3 for an artifact. Lands you control have tap. Add 1 mana of any color. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Soul Ring. 1 for an artifact. Tap, add 2 colorless. Primal Amulet is 4 for an artifact. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Primal Amulet. Then, if there are 4 or more charge counters on it, you may remove those counters and transform it. And it becomes Primal Wellspring, a land. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. When that mana is spent to cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. I usually just keep it on this side, but either way works just fine. And that was our last artifact. To finish out, let's take a look at the lands. So I will go through the lands pretty quickly here. We'll start out with Reflecting Pool. Taps to add 1 mana of any type a land you control could produce. Command Tower. Taps to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Getria Triome is our Temur Triome. We've got a few fetch lands with Misty Rainforest, Wooded Foothills, and Scalding Tarn. A Breeding Pool, Rejuvenating Springs, Hinterland Harbor, Stomping Ground, Cinder Glade, Spire Garden, Rootbound Crag, Steam Events, Training Center, and Sulphur Falls. A Yavimaya Cradle of Growth makes everything a forest. Mystic Sanctuary enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And when it enters untapped, you can put an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Holdout Settlement taps an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So, another way to tap Kalamax. Alchemist's Refuge. You can activate to cast spells with flash. Rogue's Passage can be activated to make a creature unblockable. Reliquary Tower gives you no maximum hand size and taps for a colorless. Really good for when you're drawing so many cards. The rest of these are just basic land, so we'll flip through those real quick. There we have it. I really appreciate you sticking with me throughout this entire Kalamax, the Stormsire Commander deck tour. I would love to know if you've built a Kalamax deck or played against one, and what your thoughts are. Let's talk about it down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, I would absolutely love it if you would give it a thumbs up. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll be back with new Magic the Gathering ASMR videos every Monday and Friday. Your support truly means the world to me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.